I think they give it to me because I can read it.
Token.
I need to start bringing my readers. Lots of need work.
Here somewhere.
Have trouble reading?
Yeah, I mean, I use them at the office. I think I need to bring them here. It's good to be about this time.
Oh.
Took up the 3 days. They happened on like one day and thrown in the trash.
Yeah.
The 3 tens, like they leave info. It's completely new place for our people.
Oh, I knew it was gonna be a big one today. Oh, I suppose it's nice. Oh, good.
Are we ready? All right, let's call the meeting to order. Please rise and pledge the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Renee, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein. Here. Commissioner Lyons,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Here.
Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Let it also be noted that Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, Captain Hasley, and myself are also present.
Very good. We've been presented with the minutes from our last meeting on January 13th. Are there any corrections, additions, or comments? Now, is there a motion to approve?
I move that they approve this is presented.
Second.
Ms. Badel?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. The agenda. Do we have any?
Yes, we do. We have some additions to make. These would be under items for commission action. One is a bid to replace the alternator on the town's generator out back. So that would be 10D. Then 10E would be to replace some water lines at the Blue Water Cove addition. Those are bids. And then we do have ordinance 23-1, which we spoke about this morning. I did get a call from, okay, so we're adding that ordinance 23-1 regarding the dogs.
That'd be 10F.
Correct. And then, so the new chief would become 10G, and then items from mayor and commissioners is 10H.
I believe 10F been requested to.
Yes, sir. So I did get a call last evening from Mr. Swade that had he known that this was going to be on the agenda, they would not have been in New York at this point in time and would have been here. He would prefer to be able to speak to the town commission about this. And so he asked us to delay this for 1 month to the March meeting.
I agree, we should do that. So we're going to postpone item 10F on that ordinance until next month. Anything else?
No.
Or does that take care of it?
That's it.
Very good. Our next meeting will be March 10th at 9 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. Public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Yes.
I'm Barbara Whitaker.
Yes.
I need you to go to the podium,
Yeah,
please.
Just go to the speaker so we can record you.
I'm Barbara Whitaker, and I would like to ask the commission to consider allowing artificial turf in yards where it cannot be seen by the street. It would cut down on water use, pesticides, and if you cannot see it all from the street, I would wish you would consider allowing people to do it just in their backyards.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak? Peter?
Peter Lyons, I spoke to you last month. I'm sorry I didn't hear everything you said. My hearing's not very good. The issue on the dogs,
Yes.
what What's
Okay,
been
so we
determined?
were going to add this as an amendment to our code.
Okay,
At the meeting today, it would require 2 readings. We would have put it on today for
Okay.
first reading, then it would have to come back once again for second reading in March. I received a call last evening at the end of the day from Mr. Swade, who said that had they known this item was going to be on the agenda, it was added this week. They would have not traveled to New York. Rather, they would have been here so he could address the town commission about it. So he
Okay.
asked if the town would
Postpone.
postpone it until March.
so it's a chance to testify or say something.
Correct.
I would like to give this to you. It's a petition. And let me just read it to you quickly. We, the undersigned, support the modification of the ordinance section 30-1 concerning the operation of golf carts on town streets. This ordinance was originally created for safety purposes, and it reads as follows. It's prohibited for golf carts to tow any scooter, bicycle, skateboard, wagon, or any other conveyance. The recommended change is to include dogs as another prohibited item. The recommended change should also be made for safety reasons. We believe it's a logical extension to the existing ordinance. So can I present this and give it to you?
Yes, please.
Okay, who do I give it
You can
to?
just hand it to, actually hand it to Renee.
I'll take
Yeah,
it.
to our clerk.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak or comment?
I have a letter that was asked to be read, a card.
Yes, please.
It's for the Mayor Morgan and the members of the Gulfstream Town Commission. Thank you so much for supporting our efforts when we were trying to have our duck crossing signs installed in the town of Gulfstream. You all worked so quickly to help us get the signs approved, and we appreciated that very much. Without your help, we couldn't have gotten the job done. Thank you again, Valentina and Emma.
That
All right.
was sweet. I thought it might be from the ducks. Just the board. Yes, Bill.
I may want to make a few comments at the time, one of the applications is considered.
Right.
I don't think now.
Yes, you don't need to speak. Yeah, that's fine. Anyone else? You've got quite a crowd today, which is terrific. All right, we're going to move on to, excuse me, the public hearing. Anyone who's going to speak on the Adeo application, please rise and be sworn.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Make sure I get y'all's names.
And before we begin, any ex parte communications by commissioners?
None.
If not, okay, let's move on to the application. This is 3400 Polo Drive.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, for the record, my name is Gary Leopolis. I work with GE Architecture. Our address is 1045 East Atlantic Avenue, Delray Beach. When Renee said we were the only one on the agenda, I wasn't expecting a crowd, so hopefully I don't get stage fright here. So what we are here today is to talk about Ms. Adeo's home. Her goal was the following. Her goal was to give you a home that she felt fit the character of Gulfstream and met your guidelines. She was actually looking for what she called a timeless form of architecture. We're hoping that you guys will agree with us that this is what we are presenting. Renee, can we go to the next one, please? For those who don't know the location, we are in the Cove, the northeast corner of the Cove. We are just south of Banyan, and we are on the west side of Polo Drive. Next, please, Renee. Okay, so on this slide right here, we're basically looking at an overview. When we start, let's say on the left-hand side, you see a sliver of red. Sliver of red is actually the property that goes into the water. So that's basically the gross area. We do not count that when we start doing our calculations. We use the effective lot area, which actually is at 24,335 square feet. We're indicating the setback lines that we are dealing with. You've got 23 feet, 3 inches on the north and the south side. You've got 30 in the front. And then you have actually 2 that are on the west side. There's a 30-foot setback that we'll be talking to you a little bit about a relief from. But we actually have another second floor setback of 50 feet. We also highlighted the building. I think one of the things that happens when we, especially architects, we show two-dimensional elevations, and they're not reality. You're not going to see it that way, but I wanted to highlight the outlines of the building. We've got the ground floor outlined, and we've got the second floor. So we actually have a lot of undulation going on in this building, I should say this house. The allowable FAR for this house is 7467. We are just shy of that. We are under it, 7464. Next, please, Renee. And these are just calling out the setbacks. You're going to find in this presentation, we actually exceed all the setbacks. We are not pushing the house onto any of the setbacks to give it more relief from the neighbors and trying to fit better with the actual neighborhood. Next, please. Okay, so there's our ground floor plan. Again, what we are dealing with is we've got a motor court entry that we're going to be coming into a little courtyard. This is on the right-hand side. We have a covered entrance. Your code requires on a covered entrance, you have a minimum of 8 feet. We actually have 11 feet. As you come through the house, what we try to do is balance these elevations that you're going to see today. On the north side, you do have the garage. It's a 3-car garage. It is side loaded, so you don't see it from the public right of way. On the south side, what we're trying to do with the elevations is we balance it out with an open trellis. So there is an element there, but it's actually more open for you. We did that on the same on the west side. We have a deep covered porch in the center. The north side's the family room, if you will, and the south side's a bedroom with another open trellis. Next, please, Renee. Okay, so here we are dealing with the second floor. Second floor has certain criteria also. One of the things that you have to do at your second floor, you have to offset the ground floor by at least 5 feet. You're going to see we're actually over 23 feet that we've offset the second floor. You're also going to see that from the front property line, we're back about approximately 56 feet. Again, you're seeing some undulation along the front. The center portion is actually 62 feet back from the road. Along the north side, we're 53 feet 2 inches off the property line. On the south side, we're 46.8. Again, we're really trying to push this in. We're trying to obviously not cause any issues with our neighbors. We want to be respectful to them and give them their space the way they've been used to seeing this vacant lot over the years. The other part of your code is the second floor cannot exceed 50% of the ground floor. We are under that number. We're at 2475. Next, please, Renee. Okay, so what we're dealing with here is that elevation I was talking about. You're talking about a 2-dimensional elevation. Your eye level is probably at around 15 feet, which would not work for me. It might work for some of these commissioners that are tall, but in reality, you're going to see it on a lower perspective and you'd never see the whole facade. What we are pointing out though for you is, again, these side setbacks, and please forgive me if I'm a little repetitive. I just want to make sure we get a clear understanding of what we are presenting. On the north side, the ground floor is 40 feet off the side property line. South side, we're 31. Then it's sort of like the wedding cake. I hate using that expression, but it is a wedding cake effect where we come back up on top, where you're exceeding 50 feet on the north side and 46 on the south. The other part of your code is not to exceed 35 feet in height. We are actually at the 29.8. The other part is your center element. We did a Flemish gable entrance. On the Flemish gable entrance, the highest point cannot exceed 14 feet. We are at 14 feet. Again, we do believe that when you're looking at the downtown, the core area, you got 3 styles of architecture. Predominantly is the Bermuda style. You do have your Monterey, and you have what they call a Florida vernacular. Again, our client wanted a home that fit the Bermuda style. We'll go in when we do our elevations on the renderings. You'll see all the elements that we are doing. Which we feel does fit the character of the downtown area. Next, please, Renee. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Can we go back one more? I'm sorry, Renee. What I wanted to do is highlight on that previous one, the blue. So when you see the blue, that is actually all more than 51 feet back. So unlike the setback, which is 30 feet, you're finding out that the bulk of this house is set farther back from the street. So I think that's a positive. Next. I can go back one more, Renee, sorry. That one will work. Okay, so here what we are showing is the north side. You are seeing the 3-car garage, which is side loaded. The garage doors will be painted white to kind of blend in. We do believe that you will not see this from the public right of way. You're seeing, of course, the setbacks. Along the right-hand side, it's the water edge that you're dealing with. There is the bottom portion, that's the family room. That's what we will be discussing. That is going closer to that 30-foot rear setback. We're at 40'8", actually in 3/4 if you want to count it. The second floor has to be 50 feet. We're at 50'10". Along the front, you're seeing where we are as far as coming to the main part of the structure at the 55'8". And then what I highlighted just above it is 62'8". That's actually the center portion. So again, quite a distance from the property line. Next,
There's no
please.
shutters on those windows, though.
There are no shutters on those windows.
There are on the
Front.
south side, some on the south, but doesn't our code require shutters?
We can put them. That would not be a problem to me.
Yes, there are some on the south side view.
Okay.
None on the north side view.
We'll do that. And that's what you're gonna see next. So here is the south side elevation next. And you are correct, you are seeing the shutters up there. What we are doing also, we're highlighting some of the blue elements. These are elements that are not solid. They're actually things that you'll see through. They're covered porches, they're trellises. Again, we're reducing what we characterize as tailoring the massing. And so it's not as large as what people might perceive. Next, please. This is your west elevation. This is facing the water. So what I've highlighted in red is the part that actually on the 1-story, which your code does allow with granting of the ARB board and this commission is to go to 30 feet. These portions that we're showing are actually at 40'8 3/4". Again, we're balancing the elevation. The what you call the north side is the family room. South side is a trellis. We've also highlighted the 2 covered porches. When you look at those porches, you're talking about 53% of this elevation is actually open space. Next, please. So our site is, like we said, it is vacant right now. One of the unique things that the site does have is an existing fig tree. That is the large one that you're seeing along the right-hand side. We are obviously keeping that tree. We have focused our driveway and created a motor court to drive around it. We're going to have an 8-foot-high Calusa hedge going around the entire property to screen it from the right-of-way and the adjacent neighbors. If you do have more questions for the landscaping, we do have our landscape architect here with us today. We're highlighting along the north side, obviously the side-loaded garages, showing that they are not going to be visible from the public right-of-way. The driveway, we're going to be using an antique granite Belgian block. The best way I could explain it, maybe if you've been to Europe or even up in the Northeast, it's like a tumbled stone, but they take the granite, they put it in a concrete truck, they roll them around and get them all rounded and smooth, and then you place them that way. So it is an old world look. Again, that's what our client's trying to keep the theme going. Again, she wants this home to look like it's been here for a long time. Next, please. One of the unique things definitely in the core district and probably Gulfstream in general is the lush landscaping. We are setting these Calusa heads at 8 feet. Usually when you're driving through Gulfstream, it's what I call a peekaboo view. You see through the driveways, but you really don't see the whole structure that's beyond it. We believe that's what's going to be happening with this proposed design and landscaping. What you're seeing on the bottom portion of this is the north elevation, again, screening it from the neighbors. Next, please. So this is the west elevation facing the water along the top portion. And then, of course, the bottom portion is our south elevation. Next, please. So this is that part of the code that I referenced. This is when you're looking at, you have a 30-foot rear setback. You have to go through your criteria to see, do we actually meet this criteria to justify us going down to 30 feet? Again, we're not asking for 30 feet. We were proposing to go to the 40'8". What the code talks about is when you're going through all these items, it's the lesser of. We're not going to the 30 feet, but we want to be clear about that. If you could, Renee, go to the next one. Again, we're highlighting in the rendering the part that you are looking at, should you grant us this. Again, the north side is a family room and the south side is the trellis. Next, please. All right, so what we did was we did, one of the things about the criteria is that you want to look at your adjacent neighbors. I think the point of this part of the code is the following. you do not want to block your neighbor's views. You want to be respectful of that. And I think that's what the intent of this code is. So what we did was we wanted to actually do the drone and actually fly over and see where all these homes are actually laying next to us. If you could, Renee, the next one. All right, so this is actually entering into the cove. There is a home that's under construction there. Can we go to the next one, Renee? I think I'd rather focus on the one to the right. The one to the right is a Bermuda home. Folks, that's what we are bringing to the town of Gulfstream today. We believe it is truly the character of what not only you want, but the guidelines want. Next, please. We now have superimposed our proposed house into the context of the surrounding neighbors. We went to the two to the south because those are the ones that are directly abutting that would be seen next to ours. Next, Renee, please. Okay, here's an overview. So when you look at the two houses to the south of us, we've done dimensions that are approximately off of the water edge that we're supposed to be relating to. You'll see ones at 25. I think that's an outdoor gazebo. It's a two-story structure. Then the one right next to us is approximately 35 feet. The main one we were looking at was the Banyan one. That to us was important because it does abut our property. Now, there's approximately 50 feet of overlap between their property and our property. It is heavily vegetated, but the main part is north of that, I should say west of that, they have a clear view. When you look at what we're proposing, which is 40 feet, it actually comes back approximately 55 feet south of that water compared to the neighbors. So we are preserving their views. We are not blocking anybody with the request that we were making today. Next, Renee. These next shots are obviously ones that would not be perceived by the eye, but we actually are trying to give everybody a good idea, an understanding of what this home is like on this property. So we've superimposed the model on it. You're getting to see where it is from the east property line. You're getting to see the various items that we're pointing out. The trellis along the south end is 3410 off the property. You're looking at the garage, which is 30 feet 10. And then the second floor, you're looking at 55 plus 8. You don't count the extra to the street, that's an extra 9 feet. So again, the appearance is quite set back, we believe. Next, Renee, please. And this is actually from street level, which kind of gives you a better idea of what you would be seeing. The plants that we are showing are as being installed at 8 feet versus over time, obviously it will be growing. Next, please. Another shot, obviously we're emphasizing here what we want you to see for the side setbacks and how we are exceeding all of them off the property lines. Again, preserving the views and everything that we can with our abutting neighbors so they're not seeing this home. Next, please. This is actually the north entrance. You are seeing the portion of the garage. We accented the garage with some Bahama shutters. And then you kind of can see in this rendering right here how everything else starts setting way back to give relief along the road. Next, please. So as I've stated, I feel that the majority of the core district is of the Bermuda style. We think we are enhancing it with all the elements that we're doing. We got the Bahama shutters, we got regular shutters. We have the courtyard entrance with decorative gates. We have the Chippendale railings. We have the Flemish gable entrance at the front. We have what is obviously quite common with Bermuda, and that is the concrete white tile throughout. We are showing actually arch pergolas on either side to get to the backyard. Next, please, Renee. So again, there's the garage doors. We are presenting them that they will be white. Again, I don't believe these would be seen from the street, but we want to make sure that they're not going to be obvious from the right of way. Next, please. This is that portion along the right-hand side, which is actually that family room. One of the other things that we've done is the following. We have on the ground floor, on the lower part of this roof line, we have to have a decorative crown molding. On the upper part, you're seeing these decorative brackets that we've done. Basically, we're trying to just introduce a little bit of a difference from the top from the bottom. Along the back covered porch, we have sanitation shutters and Bahama shutters. Next, please. This is along the south side. Right here, we do show an outdoor shower And again, we're showing this trellis that's off of a guest bedroom. That is the one that actually is matching the family room, which is at the 40-foot 8 3/4. Next, please. And that is the proposed west elevation. Again, the bulk of this is actually open, with 53% of this elevation being wide open. And next. To end this, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we're not trying to stand out. We're not trying to make a statement. We're just trying to blend. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. Very thorough presentation. Appreciate all the photographs and the graphics. Comments?
What is the elevation currently, and are you going to fill it? The lot, what's the current?
So the current elevation, let me look at the survey. We are going to 8 feet, which is the pending code for the finished floor.
Right, so how far up are you
I'm
going?
gonna, if you, my boss is looking right now.
Perfect.
It should be the second sheet. Let's go to the second one.
Okay.
Do you have anything?
2.6.
2.6.
What's the code? What's the state?
Maybe 2.9.
So about 3 feet.
The current FEMA map.
It's going to be up from the neighbors. So
Yes, it will. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're pushing everything in so far. We realize that, we're dealing with two things. I mean, technically, what you have is, you have the code that says the base is 6 feet.
right.
So you have to be that. The building code on top of it says you have to be a foot higher. So that puts you at 7. The pending code that they're coming out with, but I have to be honest with you, last time they had a pending code, it took like 14 years. So I don't know how quick this one's coming out. People claim due to the hurricanes and everything between Nicole and Ian that it's going to come out quicker, it's at 8 feet. So our client was looking at the 8-foot mark in order to comply with insurance and codes and stuff like that.
So how's that going to impact the neighbors?
Well, I feel it won't, only because of the distance. I would agree with the comment or the question with regards to if I was 15 feet off the property. But when you're 50-something feet off of the adjacent property and there's landscaping, I don't see how anything would ever be affected. As far as our civil goes, we have to maintain all the water on our property. So we will not be hurting anybody on the sides, that's for sure. I don't know if that answers your question.
Gary, do you all have just gonna slope that down to the property line, the grade? I don't see, there's no retaining wall, I think, in the plan, or is there?
No, there isn't right now,
Just
but
gonna
on that, the way we had it, we actually have some lower portions that actually will be holding it. So that, because we have to maintain it, we cannot.
Yeah,
drain
but
it
if
to
you're
the
going
outside.
from 8, you're raising a lot 3, you got enough room, you're just gonna slope, other than your civil drainage, you're just gonna slope down
Yeah,
the
it
adjacent
would be.
property.
Right. I think on the front part, Tom, is we do have that's already stepping up. So we're
Right.
probably gonna have some steps on the sides that would actually, because the street side still will be low.
Yep.
So you're driving, we're not raising any of that.
So you will not have a wall on each side? Is that,
At the moment, our civil engineer said we didn't need one. And if we do, it's probably gonna only be coming out of the ground about 6 inches. Because against, what Tom just said, our distances are so long, we have plenty of room to slope.
to slope?
Yeah.
Okay. It's,
It would probably be similar to the wall that Mr. Lyons' neighbor had to put in
yeah,
next to him.
as long as it isn't like the wall
In that case,
on Gulfstream Road.
that house is much closer to me, and that wall is in the back as much as 3 feet.
Yeah, we won't be there.
But the distance between the house and
Was
your
going to
neighbors, you got plenty of room.
Colors? Can you
Colors.
describe what those colors are?
So the actual pink chip colors, if you want, I'll read it to the record because we have it basically an off-white. I believe we call it our medium white. We have a brilliant white. And then our shutters, I think it's kind of a mint. Let me, architects tend to get too many drawings. Okay, stand corrected. The actual house itself is glacier white. We do have we are showing a stained front door. We also have our white flat tile roof, and then we have what they call summer basket green, which basically I would say is like a mint. And those are pretty much the colors you're dealing with. The rest of the windows and doors are all white.
The colors are fine. Could we go back to the photograph that showed the houses on the street again? I think it was an aerial shot that you had.
The drone shot.
Showed the fronts of
Maybe
Polo
19?
Drive.
That came to.
I think that was the area, but I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, if it was another one.
There it is.
No,
I think it's an aerial.
It's the one
I
before
think
that.
there was another one before that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know which one you're talking
go ahead. Would it be 18 maybe, Renee? It was actually a water view.
Now,
about. No, it's an aerial.
that's a,
Oh, okay, then go
The
up.
Polo
go to-
Drive.
I got you. Go to the 15 maybe?
That's not it.
I think it was the first one, first time we saw it. No,
It's the other way.
keep heading down.
Oh,
Just start flipping through it, see it.
go to
Nope.
the one above that. Okay, well, there's,
Yeah, we don't have a
It-
sidewalk.
Just start
No,
scrolling.
that just, yeah.
I know, I know.
There, right there.
No.
There's, look at the sidewalk.
There is no sidewalk. That was the came from Delray. I don't know where that came from.
It was before these. It was when you were showing the aerial shots, because we want to compare. Our concern is with two-story homes, massive.
put that
From Polo
one,
Drive.
up. Put that, yeah, there
It's
you
kind
go.
of like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that might actually be it.
I thought there was another one that.
I think
Showed a little
that's,
better, but I could be mistaken. But the bottom line, let's go back to it.
yes.
What did
The
you want?
proposed house, if we take the three, there's actually 4 on Polo Drive, but let's eliminate the north one. The second one in from the left is the proposed home. Is that right?
That is correct, right there, yes.
Then we go south. The one to the far left, I believe, is the Clark's
30,
correct
yes.
house. And that's a house of similar size to the one you're proposing. I believe.
Correct.
And so that has been a house that its massing is very noticeable from Polo Drive.
You are right,
Something
yes.
we're trying to address. Not on that particular house, but perhaps a few.
If
I
may
don't see a
if you
huge
want,
difference,
This right here is their 2-story facade.
correct?
And it is, with all due respect, it is very close to the street versus ours that cuts back. Ours is a lot further back. Their garage is at 30 feet. So I can only imagine this is a 5-foot offset. They might have another 5.
Right.
Where you're dealing with ours, which we're 50 plus to 60 feet off.
Right, but what's the finished floor elevation
Oh, theirs?
for yours versus theirs?
That I don't know. I think, I don't
There's
know
a
when that,
6
there's a
There's
6.
probably 6.
and yours is 8.
Ours is 8.
So you're going to elevate your house another 2 feet. So you get the 30-foot roof height that you allow. It's actually 32 feet from the street.
Gotcha.
So the massing of the house
Right.
becomes even more noticeable. I understand that you've moved it back. Your garage is 30 feet off Polo, which is the setback. The south side wing, it looks like it's about 35 maybe feet.
Well, actually, it's more than that because, well, the 35 would be the trellis
Okay,
and then the actual structure is 40.
okay. Then the entrance door is like 55 or 60 maybe.
Give or take, yeah.
But the actual 2-story section is what?
I would have to go to, I believe it's
Like
50.
50, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're right there on 50.
Okay, I think Clark's is 40. So it's
Okay.
probably about 10-foot
Correct.
difference. This was my recollection. And while that, 20%, it doesn't really look it to me from this photograph. And what are the ceiling heights of the second-story rooms?
10 feet, what, we did 10 feet, 9 feet.
Or 9 foot?
So we got 2910 on the height from the,
Yeah, we would have the 2 foot for the structure. So
Yep.
yeah, yes. So as far as
2910 plus
Yeah.
two.
it, actually to the eave height would come down and actually we're just shy of, we're at 21 feet even. And that's for your bearing height of your roof that you're seeing.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if this would help. I mean, we could build it to 7 feet, drop it another foot, we would still meet code. And that would help, I think, what you guys are talking about. I can't go below that because of code.
I did look up the height of the Clark House. It is at 7.5 feet NGVD, so it is not at 6 like
Right.
we thought.
So it's,
So
higher.
just
Pretty close to this,
So
half a
it'll be
foot lower
close to
than
this
this.
one if this comes back down to current code.
Yeah.
Well, should be good. Okay. Other,
By the way, we're gonna have an ongoing problem on that very issue. Because 20 years, you're gonna probably have to do it at 8 or 9. I don't know.
so, maybe.
I think, well, maybe, but maybe it's an issue of how the elevation to the roof height, maybe we need to start addressing that. But I don't think we can, that's in our control. We can't control the minimum first floor elevation.
Correct.
Well, Gary, how much did you knock off if the roof had gone to a peak, it would have been another 2 feet taller or 3 feet taller. You've
Yeah.
sort of put a flattish roof.
Yeah, we
on the
did do
very
a flat
top.
portion there.
So what did that knock a couple of feet off?
I believe it was 2.5 feet that we
Okay.
had knocked off.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you're not at the full 35,
No,
not even close.
no,
the 35 includes,
we're at 30. When you're saying the 30,
Third, yeah.
right, the 35 is for roof,
Yeah.
roof
Chimney.
features.
Chimneys, whatnot.
Chimneys.
Other questions from the commission?
The Clark House is what's at 35? Do you
But
know?
the height, it would have to be at 30.
Well, I mean,
yeah, the application indicates that it's at 30 feet even, so it maximized the
Okay.
height.
that's fine.
So then the difference, since the finished floor elevation, if we
go to the 7.
go to code, would be the same as that Clark House in terms of height.
Right.
And our setback, at least for the 2-story section, is an additional.
At
Roughly
least, at
10
least,
feet.
at least 10 feet.
Well, the Clark House is a full 2-story, isn't it?
Yeah, so it
I
was,
mean,
it
it's-
was
it's
built
a-
before the new code
Yeah.
that requires the setback of the second floor, so
Right.
it's
It's a massive.
It looks,
right,
the massing is more obvious.
correct. And it's closer to the property line. so.
Yeah.
Have we had any comments, from the immediate neighbors? I know they were all notified.
Well, there, at the ARPB meeting, the immediate neighbor to the north was there, and she just wanted to, Mrs. McCool, and she just wanted to look at the landscaping and the view from her house, and she was satisfied.
So I have one question on that subject. On the north border, currently, if you go out, look from the street, it's very lush. And the houses on Banyan today probably couldn't see any of your proposed
Right.
building. Will that still be in place once you redo some of this?
I believe there's a portion right in here that's on our property line that we were cleaning out and doing a new hedge, but the bulk is actually on their property. We can't touch that anyway.
Okay,
So it would be staying, yes.
okay.
They're really tall Areca palms, very,
Yes.
very, very tall.
Right.
They belong to the McCools.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
And Commission, we did hear.
I did
believe-
have a
the-
resident come in and she is here. Mrs. Walton came in to look at the plans.
Right, and so,
Was that-
We're going to open it up for public comment, but I want to first make sure we have all questions answered by the commission.
So, yeah, so 2 things. I just have 2 more things for you. No public comment. One, we've got to just, as far as the current plan, the adding the shutters on the north elevation. You got some 2/2 windows and whatnot. What fits for shutters on that side and what doesn't. We want to cover that. And just lastly, I don't know what the other commissioners think, but I'm not a, height and elevations notwithstanding, knowing what I know, I'm not a proponent of dropping the house to 7. at all. Retaining walls, slope, I mean, this is a lot where you've got slope down. You don't necessarily have a retaining wall in the plan. You know, what's going on with insurance in this state and everything else, you know, battling the heights with older homes and newer homes, that, you know, I think that you're hard pressed to with a house that's well designed right now, obviously with some tweaks to, you know, go to 7. Does that, you know, even though it's perspective, I think, you know, I think some other neighboring municipalities, maybe Trey can weigh in, or even higher than that, allow even higher elevations than that in the code.
Yeah, like the county forces you to go to pending now.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to
Yeah.
go to the lower. That's just one example. I think
Sure.
Delray still let you do that. They
I
haven't
think
changed that.
Ocean Ridge may be higher, but I
I
can't.
think Ocean Ridge is higher.
Higher, I think they may be.
I think they're like at 9,
Yeah.
They are.
9 or 9.5.
So I just want to point that out.
Any other comments, questions? Let's open it up to the public. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you
Very
very
thorough. I appreciate that. Mr. Boardman?
Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone this is a quasi judicial hearing. So if you plan to speak, you need to be sworn in by the town clerk. Thank you.
I do. I have a bit of a voice problem, so if you can't hear me, wave. Do something. Bill Boardman, live on Polo Drive, right across from the Clark home. And on the board of the Civic Association, former president. And I've been sort of appointed as a committee of one to keep track of what development issues are around the town. And it's in that capacity that I'm here. And I don't mean to be for or against the current proposal. The concern I have that I'd like you to think about, and this is more of a discussion at some point, is a year ago, just now, we were dealing with the house across the cove from this one. And it became apparent to us that we needed to amend the code and put into it a provision against dissimilarity. I said it. And that was put into the code, and it has provisions, some very specific, some not. And proposed structures shall not be excessively dissimilar to any other structure existing or to which permit has been issued within 250 feet in respect to one or more of the following features of exterior design and appearance. Number one is height of building or height of roof. I won't read the rest of them, but my concern is that as I listened to the ARPD video, I wasn't at the meeting, but I listened to the video twice. I never heard this section referred to. And I think one thing you have here is sort of a poster child for that provision. That doesn't mean it has to be done, but at least it would be more comforting to think that the ARPB had considered it. If you look at the ground, on the ground, within 250 feet, there are 11 houses. 7 are one floor plan. 3 have very small second stories. Most of them are around on Banyan. And then there's 1 full story, that's the Clarks. And it's in the 250 feet by about 5 feet. If you kind of carry that over and look at Polo Drive in its entirety, you find 38 houses, 29 of which are 1 floor. We are vulnerable. Think way ahead and what is going to happen to Polo Drive over the years, long after we're gone. And my concern is that we address that to some degree now, that the town, perhaps some kind of a plan for Polo Drive, so that we don't just do it one at a time as we go along and turn Polo Drive into Brooklyn Heights. If you look at the Clark house, These are beautiful homes. I'm not being critical. And then look at the house next door, which is a full 2-story as well. It's right across the street from us. They're beautiful, but if you envision Polo Drive with a significant number of them, it becomes very canyon-like and very different. And there are all these 1-floor plans that people don't hesitate to buy, raise, and then build to maximum heights and so forth. That's what you have here. So my purpose in standing up today, in some ways, is to make a plea to come up with a plan to have a plan for Polo Drive and anywhere else in the core that's necessary. Because it's here. This issue is here. It's going to continue. And if we get a nice plan that makes it consistent with what, and I think I'm picking right up on what you said, Scott. I mean, it's something we ought to do.
Thank you, Phil. Anyone else wish to speak on this topic? Smith? Yes, please come up. Careful. Renee?
Sure, tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you God.
I do. Hi, I'm Molly Walton, and I'm speaking for Ellen Walton. And we are the neighbors at 520 Banyan. And we have just 2 questions, but first, a appreciation for the setback. It's really pretty. We understand the need to protect the fig tree. And it's a gracious setback. But from where Ellen's house sits and where she resides, her dock directly is affected by the back side of the house, which no one has discussed. And it's lovely, but as you were saying, it's not at all similar to anything else in the cove. It's very much instead like a resort. And with the infinity pool that goes straight to the dock, that's pretty much what we see. So we would just like to bring to your attention that the back is very, very full and very much a sandals resort with the sun pool to the regular pool to the fire pit. And our second question is, could you explain noise ordinances? Because we cannot seem to find what the Gulfstream noise ordinance is. Like, is there a shutdown for a party time? Do you have any of that in Gulfstream?
Well, we do have a noise ordinance. I don't believe that there's a timing on it. Typically, we react to complaints, and being a former police officer, I responded to many noise complaints. And typically what we'll do is an officer will go over, and most of the time the complaints are valid. Mm-hmm. And so we knock on the door and we say, your music is too loud, or there's 100 people back here, you need to keep it down. They may have a band or something like that. And if we get a second complaint, then typically we shut the party down.
Okay, so it's a little loose, but those were our 2
It's very difficult for towns and cities to measure noise volumes. I'm not sure if, might find out later if they do that in Ocean Ridge or not, but I'm not aware of any town that has instruments or anybody that's trained to use noise instruments to determine what the noise volume is. But if there are complaints, we certainly address them. And
well, nobody wants to be a bad neighbor, so we were wondering if there was something
Sure.
set in place.
Yes.
I'd rather
because
focus
the
on your first comment.
Well, the backside to us is a concern because from where we are, and we do use our dock a lot, every evening. That's our view, will be their infinity pool. The fire pit's on the other side, but I guess Clark side. But it's very much it's just, there's not any green space as in all of the other houses. It's just literally cement and pools.
And I have to confess, I spent a lot of time looking at this because of what Mr. Boardman spoke about, the appearance from the street. That's really been one of my main concerns. And I confess I may have neglected
The appearance from the cover.
from the back. And you're absolutely correct. There's no greenery on the west side. It looks like it's all pool and
I think I don't know, it's pool to dock. Yeah.
It's interesting. There's another slide. Could you bring that one back where it's an aerial view and you can see the different houses and the size of the pools? And it was very clear in the visual that the proposed house with the pool, that pool is much bigger. But it's an aerial view.
let's try to find that if we can.
But I think there's one where it's two pools and one has the built-in.
But you can sort of sense it right there. Those pools are small.
Well, you got the sun shelf to the swimming pool, the infinity spillover. And then what you're thinking what you think looks like the seawall cap or the deck, I'm sure Mr. Eliopoulos can come up, is actually a wood deck that's coming in. And then we don't have the dock permit.
Is that water? Or is that
This
just
is
on,
water.
that's on the property?
This is on the property. So what you're looking at here is possibly the need for, if they're going to keep this feature, what you're looking at is possibly some plantings here
Right.
just to soften it, even if they
Right.
want to keep this
To
at
soften
the very least.
that look.
Yeah, because obviously the plantings,
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
you don't want to totally obstruct the view with high plantings here.
Gary? Yes. Want to come back up? Because I think it's a pretty important point.
This is the landscape plan here.
So to answer some of the questions with regards to landscaping and everything, I will maintain that my client is quite agreeable to stuff. I don't think her intent was ever to have the Sands Hotel here. She is an older gal. That's probably inappropriate nowadays to say, but she's single. She's not one that's all about parties and stuff. But she did want to have some space for her kids. We do exceed the landscaping code pervious area, but I don't believe we would have any issues.
The whole lot. We're talking
No, I know.
about just-
I'm saying, but I don't believe we'd have any issues adding some additional landscaping
Yeah.
to the rear and reviewing that area.
Why do you have a wooden dock across the back portion of the property?
I think
It's a
that's
wooden
the-
deck.
So what we were doing was,
Supposed to be in the water.
yeah, what we were doing was we were stepping down, and in case somebody wanted to lay out in the sun, we wanted them to be able to lay out in the lower portion. This way they're not blocking the view of people inside the house. That was the only intent of that.
Would she object to landscaping the grass?
No, I don't believe she would. No, I don't have any problem today stating that.
That would be my
Step up
position.
or down
I
the
don't know if
grass
everybody
instead of a
else.
wooden deck, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead
Right.
of remove the deck
Right.
completely and have it be.
It would get more
Let's do
green
that.
space.
Yeah.
I think that would
Soften
be
it
a big,
considerably.
yeah.
You may have to just have less hardscape, if you change the material or not.
That's fine.
And Gary, there's a lot of
Views right
deck there.
now.
You look at the pool, there's huge decks all around this pool already. I don't think you need a bigger deck.
Right. No, there's no problem there. To the other comment, I believe that the gentleman talked about, and I realize it was a little bit about ARB and stuff like that, but it goes toward what Tom said and you, Mr. Mayor. I would tell you, you do need to look at a master plan. You got to have a vision, whether it's 20 years down the road. We are going to have more issues with regards to heights, FEMA. As an architect, I'm constantly contacted about renovating these smaller one-story homes. They're too low, so now you got the criteria, 50% of the value. I mean, they make it so difficult for you to have a house renovated today that you're getting forced to knock them down. And that's one of the problems you're going to run into. So I think that comment was well spot on. You got to look down the road and see what you can do.
They're not going to have a dock at this house, are they?
She is, I believe, she's going
A
in,
little one, right?
but I think she is going to come in for a separate permit for that.
It's not part of this
Yeah.
application.
Because then you can have your wood dock.
Yeah, on that subject, I chatted with staff on that particular subject of this seawall. that property, when we have king tides,
Mhm.
water goes over that. So I don't know whether we can make it a condition.
I'm not sure what the height of this, do
Like
you know what the height of the seawall is?
Seawall.
Because, we have raised our maximum, the ability to put a seawall in from a maximum of 6 feet to 8 feet.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna find that most of the older ones were set at 5 feet.
I
And we're
I think you're right.
running
Between,
where people are raising them. I know for a fact she wants a new dock.
Yeah.
She started the application and then held off until we got done with our design. Let's see here if they do. Yeah, her current one is at 2 feet. in
Okay,
that
well,
direction. You know,
I
so
mean,
it's obviously gonna go substantially.
the king
higher.
tides
Yeah.
do,
Right.
So if your seawall is going to be
Breach.
raised to 8 and you have a step down, you're going to have to backfill that, so you can't really step down anyway.
No, we won't. I mean, when you raise that and looking at that, we
Yeah.
won't have those steps.
No.
We'll be able to add more landscaping. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to have to backfill it to bring it up.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
Let me just kind of summarize my thoughts on this. I think we've identified a number of changes that we'd like to see. And what Mr. Boardman brought up and what I talked about and what we've added to the code to give some discretion to our boards is to prevent excessive dissimilarity. And what I was getting at is excessive similarity, having two or more massive homes next to each other. But what you've done here, it impresses me. You've taken the side setbacks, not to their minimum. You allowed for much broader setbacks, much larger setbacks, which is very visible from that aerial photo when you compare it to the homes to the south, the two-story homes. From the air, the house actually looks smaller than those homes. And the fact that you've set back the two-story home by 50 feet and the entrance to 55 plus feet, it also impresses me. And so whereas I prefer single-story homes, I would love to see a single-story home. My concern with this lot, because of its size, a single-story home would be objectionable because it would be so long and would more likely than not use the minimum setbacks available. And we have a couple of those in town, and they can be as unattractive from the road as the two-story homes. So with the conditions that we've identified here, I think I'm in favor of your application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
May I respond to Mr. Boardman's comment?
Yes.
I don't want to say one thing. I totally agree with you. And I think we're going to address it to the managers because that's the number one issue, I think, for the poor. And not just Polo, I mean, even some of Gulfstream Road. And we need to come up with the right plan. I think that the commission has been challenged. We keep taking steps in the right direction. I've been inclined to be a little more radical, and I would favor, and it would impact my values. I think it will help my values, but on my home, by reducing the amount of square footage that's permitted. And so that should be on the table as we look at all of this. The deal with just the size of homes and to live up to the mission statement, which is understated homes in the core district.
We're going to talk about it today.
Good.
It's an item on the agenda. The only issue that I see there may be difference of opinion on with this application is the finished floor elevation.
I happen to agree with Mr. Stanley. I just think to ask homeowner and spend this amount of money, when we know that we're going into 8 feet, that they ought to be able to build 8 feet. The question then is, do you do something about lowering?
Exactly. It's not 8 feet. And it seems to me that why would we be adding an extra foot of appearance, both to Mrs. Walton and to the Polo Drive when it's not required. It's a large home. This is a large home. And it seems to me we should maintain what code requires. 7 feet, that's what it should be, not 8.
Would you be okay if you went to 8 and lowered the height of the roof?
When you get into architecture, you don't want to make I don't think so. I don't,
Yes, Gary.
you know what, you have to
8-foot
ask
ceiling
Gary,
on
the
the
architect.
second-
Yeah,
You
I,
don't want to make it look odd.
It's not
Right.
ideal.
I think I would look at it and of course we'll consider it. I think what happens is I also have a 10% maximum flat roof area that we already have a flat roof up there. So we'd have to do the math and just see we're not increasing that. But you are right, Commissioner, it's the proportions and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
always want to have everything balanced. So at the moment, I'm happy to look at anything. Obviously, I'd like to get this approved, but I also want this board and the community to be happy.
Maybe I'm naive, but if you, in the interior of the house, if you lower the ceilings, and I'm not proposing this, but if you did lower the ceilings on the first and second, proportionally, you could build a house that is lower from the grade, correct?
Yes, you
Well,
can.
Okay. That's just a question.
So could you knock a foot off?
You're talking about
6
a foot.
inches off
that's
each
all,
floor?
right?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually say I prefer not to.
I know.
That's one I can speak for and say no.
I think you also feel now the way it's designed, you have 10-foot ceiling on the ground floor and 9-foot ceiling on the second floor, and I don't feel like that's too,
That's Jennifer from our office. I know we got to announce that. She's being bad.
but I don't feel like that's too, like asking, we're not doing 11 feet or 12 feet down on the ground floor and 10 feet above, I don't think.
No, I got it. We just have a disagreement as to your finished floor elevation, trying to.
She's my boss.
Trying to achieve passage of your.
Well, my view, Mayor, is that if the applicant wants to build it at 7, that's their choice.
May I
Well,
just,
they want to build it at 8.
But
I know.
may I just,
I think you're, I'm sorry, I mean, yes, no, I think what you were proposing is to go to 7. We're not.
To what is required.
Yeah, and I'm saying if they want to, the applicant wants to go to 7, no, they're okay with that, then I'm okay with it.
If you're okay with 7.
If obviously I'm looking for passage also for this. So yeah, yes.
may I make a comment? The staff has talked to the Highland Beach building official. And with respect to the finished floor elevations, the Highland Beach building department will require what is required by the state of Florida building code, which references the FEMA maps. And so if those FEMA maps are indeed at 8 feet right now, that's what the building department in Highland Beach will require, because it would be the
Well, do we know that or
state of
not?
Florida.
Whatever the minimum requirement is. Obviously, you can't go to 7 if it's required.
That's what I'm
Our
trying to
code
say.
says 7 now, but it needs to be updated.
Our code says 7, but our code may, in fact, need to be updated.
Whatever.
The Florida
Highland Beach is
building,
permitting,
and then they follow the
requires.
Florida building code.
That's what we.
So, Gary, that's what you're going to need to follow.
Okay, yeah, and as of right now, it is 7. Like I said, pending for the FEMA maps.
Are you
it's 8.
sure it has not been raised to 8?
Yeah, well, I'll double check. I think
Because,
yeah, we're still at the 7. We definitely are.
okay.
We would definitely double check. First of all, you're right. We're not going to get a permit otherwise, but we've been checking these maps constantly on every project and we're following them. We haven't been notified about the height change yet.
We did just get a letter from FEMA, and it looks like the changes are going to be made 2023.
Okay.
If, depending, it said it was possible to 2023, the new map's coming out. Because they haven't been, they haven't come out since 17.
Well, I mean, it's whatever the Highland Beach Building Department requires, because they follow the Florida Building Code at this point in time, which references the FEMA maps.
Well, are we in agreement on that? That whatever the.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
Maximum, whatever it is.
right.
It's a minimum.
That's what this application would be.
That's
accepted
right.
at.
That's correct.
6, 7, or 8, whatever that is.
They
At the
will
time
need
you
to follow
apply.
that, right?
Is that fair? I know you want higher.
Well, if I were building it, I'd want 8, you know, if we were building, it's for 50 years or 100 years, the thing's gonna be there. It's not like it's gonna be going down historically, so.
No.
Let's go with what the code dictates for Highland Beach. That could be 7 or 8, right?
Correct.
We okay with that, Tom and Mayor? And
Oh, yeah. I
Okay.
think it- well,
I mean, it's actually the
whatever
Florida
code.
Building Code
Florida,
that
okay.
Highland Beach enforces.
Okay.
I mean, it's important enough. It almost needs to come back as to this issue. I mean, you know, FEMA has auditors now that Gary knows this, that reviews these applications. So you know, this house is built, you know, somebody comes in to do some sort of very large renovation, even though it's a relatively new house. You got to file all the applications and they're like, what? We just built, this house was built and got a CO in 2023 or 2024. I mean, that doesn't make a, you know, my own opinion doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but and I've dealt with those on the 1-story ones like Mr. Iliopoulos has, where you have someone coming in, they're like, you know, I got all this going on. They're very strict now, even more. I mean, we've been talking about this a long time, even more so than 10 years ago, depending on what the finished floor was. I mean, so if we don't have a definitive answer on this, I mean, it's
Then
a
you
pretty
go with the
expensive
building
house.
code.
Yeah.
We're trying to balance the application with the appearance of the tent and what we're going to be addressing here again. So if everyone's okay with that, then that's.
I mean, obviously his choice is to go to 8 and then, and lower, and he could lower,
He could do that too.
I mean, so
So that
whatever.
would require that would require a postponement of, and you don't want to do that. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a motion on this application?
So what we have a couple of changes to the landscape plan and the wood deck on the west elevation.
The wood deck
And shutters.
and the shutters.
Should do it.
Is that going to be a minor or major? Trey?
Yeah, so that would, so you can just say that with the modifications as presented to be reviewed by staff for final
Okay.
approval, and that would just be as to the dock in the rear area.
So that's after the
All right, and then you've got you're adding the shutters to the
north side,
north elevation, yeah, including the 2/2s.
again, to be approved by the
All
town.
right.
All right, Tom. You've already got it, that's. I like this making things-
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, I got this one here. Got 2 motions. Let me see. We're going in one order. We've got a motion to approve. So this application, we've got a motion to approve a special exception to reduce the rear setback from 50 feet to 40 feet as per section 7075J. Rear setbacks for waterfront lots in the Court District.
I'll second it.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Got a motion to approve a level 3 architectural site plan and review for construction of a 7,464 square foot 2-story Bermuda style single family dwelling with a 2.5-car garage and swimming pool, subject to the following modifications: at the north elevation, all windows shall have the matching shutters to be approved by staff added. And second, the west elevation landscape plan in front of the pool where the current wood deck is proposed is to be modified and approved by staff in accordance with the code.
And comments by the commission.
We're eliminating the deck.
Eliminating the deck.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and eliminating the deck and adding landscaping on the west elevation below the pool.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Seriously, thank you.
All right, town manager, update on our tree replacement.
Well, as you can see, we now have our new tree in the front lot of Town Hall. It's a live oak. It's what I believe is a beautiful tree. Right now, it's still under some stress, and so it might look like there's no leaves on it, but they will certainly come back And I think it's going to be a beautiful tree for us.
Very good. So much for the tree. Let's move on to the next topic, which is the security cameras. Mr. Nazaro?
Yes, Mayor, I'm going to be handling that.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Mr. Delafield. I told him there was only one item on the agenda ahead of him. I think I oversold that a little bit, so my apologies. So earlier, this is just an item for continued discussion. We did have a lot of information provided at the last meeting, and I'll just recap that a little bit. Earlier this year, I went with the town manager and Captain Hasley to meet with the Ocean Ridge Police Chief to talk about he utilizes his Flock camera system in Ocean Ridge, which is a LPR license plate reading camera. So they're not video cameras, but take video photo images, and from those images, they can allow our officers to pull information about the registration, such as where the vehicle is from. And per our discussion with Ocean Ridge, the make and the model of the vehicle is 75% accuracy. So given how the Ocean Ridge chief successfully utilized the system, staff here believed it could be used to obtain a similar benefit in enabling more efficient proactive policing. From an operational standpoint, these LPR cameras use solar and cellular technology, so it's not required to be hardwired. I know Commissioner Smith mentioned batteries, potential battery operated, so we could maybe work with the location so it wouldn't need to be sort of more out in the open to catch the sunlight, but batteries are not an option as they would need to be replaced about every few days, even just given the volume. So
One correction, don't put that on him. I was the one who suggested that.
So
As something to explore.
So Commissioner Lyons wants to volunteer to change those batteries, but I think we'll go a different direction. It will alert to the laptops in the squad cars or the police department cars, and dispatchers are not involved. It just goes straight to the in-car laptop or phone. So we did reach out to Flock, and we have Lindy Gurvich here. Thank you. The territory sales manager for South Florida, who met with the town manager, Captain Hasley, and myself. So we did it's kind of a second round of meetings to talk about pricing, integration of the town, and of course the feasibility of locating the cameras so they are inconspicuous as possible. So we did view Place au Soleil entrance, as well as the 5 roads in the town here in the core, the public roads. Obviously starting on the north side at County Road, Sea Road, down to Banyan, Lakeview, and Gulfview. There was no problem from the feasibility of locating these cameras, except for, of course, Banyan. As you know, it's heavily canopied. So the required solar panel would not receive enough sun to be charged. They operate at best with at least 4 hours of sunlight per day. So all the other intersections were generally favorable and had no problem. We would just need to pull the Banyan Road up to Mr. Stanley, Oleander, right?
Yeah.
So we'd pull that to,
Or to, Gulf Street
we
Road.
would pull it to Oleander. So Renee, if you can go to the next slide. So this is just an example of the aesthetic impact. So this is, this is as you're coming in Banyan. If you're going to the school, this is not the preferred route. So you come up Banyan and you would see it's located there on the right. Now you're at quite a distance, so I'll go to the next slide, Renee. So you kind of get closer and you can see it a little bit better. And then one more, Renee. You can see, you can just go to the next slide. I did all that hard work for you.
Oh, you did, thank you.
So, that's really a comparison as to what it looks like compared to the stop sign there. I mean, it is highly visible, that corner, it's certainly very much out in the open, but it blends into some extent as it's, I'll leave that up to the commission. It would get plenty of light there, and it would be able to read anyone coming down Banyan. We could maybe even locate an additional camera if someone was going to turn up Oleander. So this would allow license plates to be read from anyone that's coming in into the core area. Consistent with what we talked about last meeting, this would be used largely during the evening hours, if there's, a registration that comes back, out of town at 10 or 11 o'clock or late hours in the morning. I know this is something that a number of residents have indicated they're interested in, so we just wanted to provide you with a good understanding of what the visual impact would be. From an aesthetic standpoint, the poles will be located on the northwest corner of each street with a solar cell facing to the south to catch the sun, and the camera would face west to catch the plates, obviously. So if you think about C Road as you're coming in, there's a cluster of bushes and trees. There's obviously the poles in North on County Road. You're looking at, as you come into Lakeview, there's a lot of landscaping on Mr. Burns' property. They would be able to be hidden to some extent, although you are dealing with, a large black pole with a solar on it, and you'd be driving by that and be facing the road essentially. And these are just some additional photos that were provided by Lindy. Thank you, to sort of illustrate how these look, kind of in the wild, not necessarily wanting to be hidden, but just as you're driving by, coming in through them, what that looks like. So with that, I just put it out to the commission to see, if that's something that we want to move forward with, given the visual impact in town. And of course, Lindy and her team will work with us to make sure that we get those in a location that is as acceptable, as good as possible, given the desire to have the cameras, but balance that functionality with, it not being too obtrusive visually.
Take me quickly back to what happens. It takes a picture. How long does it take it isn't a data bank that tells us whose car that is.
It's not. I don't know, Lindy, I told her that I would handle the presentation. So yes, please, if you could just approach, and that she could be here for any of those type of questions. So while I could surely answer it, we have an expert here available.
Okay. Hi, thanks for having me. So your question was, how long does it take before the image?
Yeah, they snap a picture of a car at 11 o'clock at night, and the police department immediately get that on their screens, or it's at a live screen all the time in their cars?
Yeah, so there's different ways they can get the alert. It should come in about 8 to 20 seconds from when the car passes by the camera. So they can
the alert is just that a car came through.
Depending on, there's many different ways you can get alerts. So there's different alerts you can set up for. But if a car passes by with, say, a warrant out for their arrest, or it's a stolen vehicle with a stolen plate, yes, that would set an alert directly to the police department.
But who do you have a data bank that's doing that research in
Yes,
30 seconds or something? Okay.
Yep, we do. We have a national database, and also a couple of databases that are specific to Florida, and everything goes through FDLE, through our system.
So what about the one that is the up and coming thief, who's not in the database yet?
Yes.
Is some kind of alert still set?
Bad actor.
There is a way to set up alerts just in general. Ocean Ridge does this as well, like to set it up, say, from like 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. when people are not traveling, like your residents are not really coming in and out. You can set up to get an alert on any vehicle passing by the camera. And so then if the patrol officer, gets an alert at 2 a.m. that a vehicle just, drove into Banyan or C Drive, he can look up that image right away and say, all right, this, vehicle, he can run the plate and say, this is not a resident. This vehicle is registered to someone in Miami-Dade, and then he can just, drive over there and do the policing.
Can we exclude residents' plates, or we have a sticker that residents put on their cars?
No, it does not have the ability to exclude the resident plate.
No, I believe the officer would get a photo of it. So if they were able to look at the rear of the vehicle and see a Gulfstream sticker, they would know immediately without even running the plate.
Does it give you the rear or just the plate?
The rear.
The rear.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, the whole rear of the vehicle, and depending on the angle, like you've got like a side view as well. But it's focused on the vehicle. It's what we're trying to capture.
So, yeah.
So a vehicle description, because sometimes people don't have a plate on their car or a temporary plate or, golf cart, stuff like that. So we're capturing whatever vehicle passes by the camera, regardless of if it has a plate or not.
And doesn't it usually take more than one picture? I mean, that ultimately gets to the officer. It's like 2 or 3
Correct,
Yeah.
yes. So
before the
camera-
car's out of the
Yeah.
view.
the camera's motion activated, so they're facing, the direction of traffic. So as the front end of the vehicle starts passing by the camera, it triggers the camera to start taking snapshots. So typically, especially on the roads that you're doing it on, the vehicles are not traveling at high speeds. It's probably gonna get about 8 images or so of the vehicles.
So Renee, when you issue a sticker, you have obviously the license plate number, do you not?
Yes, they have to give us their
So
vehicle
you
registration.
could put that in the database, and if my car came up, it wouldn't send an alert, correct? Or is that overcomplicating things?
Yeah, I don't, for the law enforcement cameras, we don't exclude like specific vehicles yet, so.
I think you can't do that.
Right.
Rental cars too, you can't do anything like that.
They
It's just
wouldn't know.
stolen cars.
Yeah, there's a long list of
Yeah.
alerts that you can set up for,
Okay.
from what I said, like warrants and stolen vehicles, stolen plates, like, those are like obviously really bad things, but all the way down to like, expired registration,
Oh, interesting.
suspended license, like, yeah. So there's like lots of different, and every department can pick and choose what they want to get alerts for.
Suspended license, okay.
So,
Commissioner, if
Trey,
I-
you focus on, in your presentation, what the camera and solar panel looks like to the resident.
Yes, sir.
The profile is mostly the solar panel, right? Is that what really sort of takes up a lot of the?
Yeah, that's correct. So the pole, it's what, 12 feet out of the ground? So it's just a thin pole, and the camera, I mean, in looking at some of these pictures, when I was in Ocean Ridge and kind of saw it up close, it's somewhat sizable, but as the further you are away, I mean, it's really nothing. It is really the solar panel that is the large item, and that will be facing south, which is in your direction as you're turning into town road.
Just to ensure we look at all the options. Is it that much more expensive to hardwire?
Oh, I think it would be.
Well, not on our end. If there is
No,
power
no.
out there, it's,
No,
so like
no,
for
not-
Place au Soleil, like they
For-
have the guardhouse and the landscape lighting. So what I proposed was putting the camera
Right.
to the right of the entrances going in, like almost in the landscaping, so it's very unnoticeable, but there is power already there. So there's no additional cost on our side for that, but with your other 5 entrances coming, into the core, I guess you guys are calling it, heading west into town, there is no power out there. So that would, yes, on your end,
It
to
would be
pull
more
power out there would probably
Well,
be.
I know it would be more expensive, but we're talking,
Oh,
if for $10,000, I didn't have to look at that, I'd sign off on that.
Sure.
I mean, that's my
No.
real question.
I understand.
So maybe we should just find out what it might cost to hardwire.
No,
Yeah, I mean, we'll
absolutely.
have to see how far we have to go to do that.
What was the cost of this proposal?
The cost of proposal, so we are a service model as a company. So we provide the hardware and the software, and it's for an annual cost per camera. So it's $2,500 per camera per year. We do have a one-time installation fee of $350 per camera. So we would be looking at, on an annual basis for the 6 cameras, $15,000 per year. And then year 1 would be, my math, 350 times 6, added onto that $15,000 per year. So that would be the year 1, and then each additional year would be the $15,000. And we take care of everything. We're responsible for always maintaining the equipment. If anything does need to be repaired or replaced, we're responsible for that. So, we are close to the beach and the salt water here. So that camera might last, a year less than a typical camera out west. But if the camera fails, after 2 years or whatnot, we will just put a new camera on there for you. So you're never going to be stuck with anything outdated or that's not working for you anymore.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience?
Bo, is this what you guys were thinking when you came to us with this idea?
Yes.
Would we be, like people with private roads and stuff, would we be offering this to them at their
Right.
cost?
So,
At their
so-
cost?
sure. So at this point, it would almost be, I hate to call it a pilot program, but just sort of seeing the functionality and if it's
Okay.
beneficial. And if it is, then we would at that time approach
Private
the
road.
private roads.
Okay.
We would have to, they'd have to approve the location and, they could, contribute financially and we could roll that into our annual contract.
Who owns the tape, the photos, and how long are they maintained?
So the police department or the city would own the data. It's your data. We do not share it with anybody else without your permission. Typically in Florida, all the other law enforcement agencies share it with each other. But other than that, there's no sharing. We don't sell it. We don't monetize it for anything. We have a standard 30-day data retention. So every rolling 30 days, we do delete the data. So it's not tracking the residents for, years at a time. If there is an investigation or there has been a crime committed, the police department can then save those images of the vehicles that they believe to be a suspect or part of the crime that took place. Other than that, on that rolling 30 days, we delete all the data. It's a hard delete. If you guys were to call and say, hey, we want something from right now, December, we would say, sorry, like it's gone.
How long have you been in business?
Flock has been a business for going on 6 years now.
Okay.
So Captain, bottom line,
I think it would be a great tool for preventiveness. In reference to your question on the decals or if it's a resident, the camera won't decipher that. But when it sends that image to the officer, if the officer sees the rear of the car, sees the sticker, it's an inbound vehicle, they don't have to run that tag then. They recognize it as a Gulfstream car. So it's only if they, if it's a clean back to the car, no decal, or they don't recognize the car during that hour, that they go ahead and run the tag and see where it comes back to. If it comes back to Polo Drive, they may take a look anyway, they may not. They don't have to. They feel it's a resident.
Well, how long did that take? So you're in Plaza Soleil and there's a hit on Banyan and there's no sticker, so it could be an Uber driver or it could be
Right,
a
correct,
criminal.
correct.
You then have to run.
It takes probably, if they run the tag in the laptop, it takes probably 3 seconds to get it back. And they know who the vehicle is.
Okay.
So you're
And
there.
if there's a car on
3
this
minutes,
side and a
2
car on Soleil, the car on this side will be
Radio.
responding,
Okay.
First.
All right. So
But
that-
if it's
so
a stolen
rapid
car, it alerts you.
If it's a stolen
immediately. You
car
don't even have to
or
run it.
something
I mean,
related to the registered owner or the driver,
Okay.
or not so much the driver, but the registered owner, it automatically alerts
Okay.
you.
That's what you don't have to run the,
Right.
How about the aesthetics? Y'all live in town, so.
I think you'll get used to it. I mean, it's like anything else you put up. It's sort of
I
like
think
you
you'll
get used to
notice.
looking at it after, 90 days, all of a sudden your eye just like looks right past it, It's like anything else we put in.
I propose that it's no more than 10,000 a hard wire. Would we consider that?
Why don't we see how effective it is first before we do that?
Okay. I
It just
assume
seems to
that
me
it's
we
going
ought-
to be effective, otherwise we wouldn't do it. I apologize.
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so you hardwire, you still have it on a pole. It's still.
Yeah.
That's what I was
I mean,
gonna
what's
say,
the
the
difference?
pole's still gonna be 12 feet, whether you
Yeah.
have a solar panel on it or not, so.
No, I just thought that the solar panel gives it much more of a profile.
We look eco-friendly.
Is that, yeah, that's a good point.
Hey, Bo, I'm totally in favor of it. I just like it a lower the profile. But
your color,
I'm fine with
power
that.
lines.
Yeah, now we're putting new ones back.
And I think we're all in agreement to proceed.
Yes.
with
Yes.
this. So we'll direct Mr. Nazaro to put forward a formal quotation that can be brought to us for approval.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So we'll have that on the next
Very good.
agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Trying to move this ahead. We now have the topic at 10:30 of massing in the core. And rather than spend an awful lot of time on this right now, because we have other things to cover.
I mean, I really had a very brief
Right. I think it's
statement
just
about
summarize
where we
a few
are.
Things to us.
We're just bringing you up to date. I mean, because the
It
committee
was,
has given us the direction.
it was,
to begin to work.
right, this was not intended to be a thorough discussion with many proposals. It was meant to sort of alert the commission of where we are and how we're moving forward in addressing this topic.
Very good.
Okay, with that, I'll proceed. Thank you, Mayor. Let's change pages here. So in 1995, the American Society of Landscape Architects awarded our planners the National Award of Merit for its work on our design manual. So we sit here almost 30 years later, and for much of the past 5 years, there's been increasing discussion on massing, particularly in the core zoning district. Each zoning district is unique. The beachfront has lots that are between A1A and the ocean. Ocean West is characterized by lots somewhat comparable in size to those on the beachfront, but on the west side of A1A. Place au Soleil is unique in that the roads are wide with large rights-of-way and open front lawns. The north-south district contains medium to large-sized lots containing what at the time was described as an eclectic yet pleasing mixture of 1- and 2-story homes of varying architectural style. So it's mainly in the core district that massing has been a concern, as we really saw in our application today. And it seems that with every 2-story home brought for approval, there is increasing concern about what some have called the canyon effect, which I believe was actually mentioned today, with the potential for large 2-story homes looming over narrow roads from both sides. So just by way of kind of an update, like I said, later on in the agenda, we'll be filling a newly created third ARPB alternate position. And during the last few ARPB meetings, because we do have a number of new members and new alternates as well, they have asked for a bit of a refresher on their roles or first time. So I was going to prepare a presentation that covers everything from ex parte communication to the more salient portions of the code that they are asked to review regularly. I mentioned this to the mayor, and he was interested in participating as well as a sort of workshop. So we're going to try to have that workshop and presentation at the end of the February ARPB meeting on the 23rd. And so the reason I brought that up under massing in the core district is because staff will be reviewing the code as part of that workshop. And we'll be able to take the time to think about how to address concerns that seem to come up year after year. And I think, historically in addressing massing, I mean, that was the reason and the impetus behind the Gulfstream Design Manual, back many years ago. At this point, and I've talked to our planner who just generally, was in favor or suggested that would be acceptable. As far as addressing these concerns, we've really had 2 proposals that have been kicked around at the commission level when this comes up, which is the very hot topic of reducing the floor area ratio, perhaps maybe just for 2 stories, which as sitting in the attorney spot, I'm a lot more comfortable with than an outright reduction, just because it's hard to argue that your investment back expectation is diminished when we have, next to Mr. Lyons, a spec builder that builds a single story house. So if they're trying to maximize their value and they build a single story, there's an argument that there's no reduced value if you modify that slightly for the 2-story builds. So I'm coming around to that a little bit. I do want to be very careful. And then, of course, the second one would be increasing the front setback for 2-story builds. And of course, on the application today, we saw a significant step back or setback from that 2nd-story portion. And that would, of course, reduce that canyon effect. The further they are away from these narrow roads in the core, the less that impact will be felt. Obviously, we are dealing with FEMA as well, and pushing those homes even higher and higher, even under our code. So those are some of the things that we've discussed, and we can also get into building heights as well. But this is just, again, by way of an update that this is on our mind. We know that it's here. We did modify the code for similar to similar, which I think was largely a product of maybe more architectural style, but can also be used, as Mr. Boardman mentioned, it does have specific criteria about building height. So that's just kind of the update on where we are. on massing and how, it may be just limited to the core district because of the unique features of the core that do not exist in the other zoning districts. With that, really, if you want to have any discussion, we certainly can, but really that was just an update on where we are. And after our ARPB meeting, we may have a more clear picture of where we want to move in the future. But we don't have a silver bullet today, and that's just my update.
Right, that approach is a good one because you'll have had an opportunity to really review the code before we speak with the ARPB. ARPB deals with this every month, and I'll be interested in our presentation focusing on similarity, dissimilarity, roof heights, FAR, FEMA, what their thoughts are as well. We'll then put that all together and have a discussion here, either the next month or the month after that, and we can discuss some proposals. So that sounds good.
May I make
Yes,
one
sir.
suggestion? We have addressed this in the past. We'll probably continue to address this in the future. I'd like to see if we couldn't find some other resources to help us think it through. I'm sure other municipalities are running into some of these same issues, and there's probably some creative thinking that we should access. So that's the only thing.
That is our plan.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And this will be the perfect meeting to have it because we only have one minute
Oh, great.
item on the February 23rd meeting. So it's perfect time for
Yeah.
the workshop.
Palm Beach uses a cubic analysis.
Correct.
Which apparently is pretty confusing, but may be more effective.
Working.
But we don't know. What I've been reading is Palm Beach has been having real issues with mansionization. So I'm not sure how effective it really is, but we'll explore all those things so that we can open it up for discussion here. Okay, moving on. Our next ARPB meeting will be February 23rd at 8:30 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. Mr. Dunham, the finance report.
Yes, sir. So both the finance and water reports are normal. I don't see any outstanding issues with them. The finance report represents 25% of this year's budget.
Very good. Any questions? We're on the water report? Okay, thank you very much. We have our Captain Tasley police report.
Thank you, Mayor. I ask that the report be accepted as submitted. We continue to enforce the construction manual. We issued 8 more citations for violations, and it seems to be keeping them in line. Beyond that, we're processing 1 applicant currently, and we have 2 more that are in the process of applying.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, let's move on to the Gulfstream School enrollment cap.
I think Trey was going to.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if we're voting on anything today, I've got to recuse myself for the voting conflict.
With Gulfstream? Yeah. Very good. Vice Mayor is hereby recused. I'm going to just doodle here a
Will
little
you
bit.
send out notification to the town residents?
Bids out here from straight.
All right, Mr. Nazaro, we're moving on to the Gulfstream School enrollment cap.
Thank you, Mayor. So at the last meeting, we had a discussion about amendments to the development agreement that we have with the school. There is currently a 250 student enrollment cap, and they cannot build anything outside a specific building envelope. So last month, we did approve some building outside the envelope on the south side to facilitate a food service program at the school. So at that time, it was felt that there needed to be more discussion and participation by the community about the increase in the enrollment figure from 250 to what's being requested is 300. It was, I would like to note that it was reported in the Coastal Star that they were seeking the enrollment cap. However, the town did not put out any specific notice, other than it being on the agenda, obviously, that related to the meeting today. So I did get a comment from a resident that indicated that they wanted to be part of the discussion, and that they thought they were going to be provided more specific notice, as was indicated in the Coastal Star, but that did not happen. And that's largely a part of my failure as not having enough oversight over what was communicated in your letter. I honestly had read it and I could have sworn that that specific notice was provided. So
I mean, there was an article on it in the Coastal Star.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I was at Behind the Hedges last night. Everybody was talking about it. So informally, at least, the word has gotten out. We can postpone it again if the commission wants, or we could hear from Dr. Smith if you have thought anyone here who wants to comment.
Right. So at this point, I did indicate to Dr. Smith that this is largely a continuation of our previous meeting. He did give his presentation last month, and I think that covered everything. I believe to the satisfaction of the commission. It was just the issue of additional notice, because it was just an item on the agenda. Now we give specific notice for development applications with a certain surrounding the property line. This is not something that would require that. When they start to build, that will be required for their application when it goes through the town commission for this refrigeration unit or food service program. I think we had a number of parents here earlier that I imagine would speak in support, but I don't know if we have anyone who would like to participate in public comment. But I mean, we have put it out there, and it was reported in the Coastal Star.
Is there anyone here who wishes to comment on it outside of Dr. Smith?
I think we get it done.
Have you heard
Let's vote
any
on it.
comments that are negative toward this? I mean, the person who couldn't come today, I mean, did they want to make a presentation? I mean, I still think the community should have been notified. I mean, it was in the Coastal Star. I think that was great. But I don't know.
So the email that I received, and there was some back and forth, because when I read it this morning, I was at home on my laptop and I responded immediately and said, I know it was reported in the Coastal Star and I believe it was part of the mayor's letter. And then when I came in to read the mayor's letter, it somehow vanished in between when I read it the first time and when I read it this morning. So, this individual said, I know that a few residents have concerns and would like to be included in the conversation. So it wasn't, I oppose it, I think it's a bad idea. It was, we just want to be included in the conversation. Now, that from Dr. Smith's presentation last month, we know they have provided a traffic study, or they performed a traffic study. I think Captain Hasley indicated that there has been no negative impact with an increased enrollment, and Dr. Smith admitted that there has been an increased enrollment over the cap. They currently are within 7 students of what they would potentially be able to have if this went through. They're at 293 with a 250 student cap. So essentially the negative impacts that the town and the Corps specifically would be receiving or impacted by, rather, are currently being felt. And with this different traffic pattern, I won't speak for the captain, but I don't believe that there has been any notice of increased traffic.
Now, as we stated at the last meeting, their traffic plan they have in place, which they improved originally, has been working fine. There's been no issues reference to school traffic.
Well,
Should we?
if the two of you would like to postpone this till next month and send direct notice to the town, we could do that just on this issue. Or if you've heard enough, we can vote?
Oh, I've heard enough from people and it wasn't all positive, Scott. Maybe it was all
Okay.
positive last night. I don't know. People thought, what are you doing? And how did you let it go to 293? And so it's a little bit along the lines of those who have children at the school or grandchildren at the school and those who don't. So it depends on who you talk to, but I'm not saying they're outraged. I think that maybe they would like the chance to come speak. So I hate to do it to Dr. Smith, but
Yeah, if
maybe
you've heard a negative comment, then we should post. I've heard many, not a single one was negative.
negative.
Not a
Okay.
single one.
Yeah.
So if you've heard even one.
Oh,
then
yes.
We will table.
It wasn't, I
this
wouldn't
to
call
next
it
month.
negative. The
Concerns.
arguments were concerns and
Yeah.
they wanted to know, to have a chance to maybe hear what Dr. Smith said and a month ago. And they maybe would feel like we do, that it's really a good thing to do. But I think they thought that they should have had a chance to express their opinions. That's what Trey got also,
Our
right?
concern.
It wasn't negative, was it, Trey? That,
No, it was just being part of the conversation,
right.
Yeah.
right? So
Well, then
Out of respect, I think we should let them be part of the I mean,
Well,
that's
but,
only my opinion.
When you spoke to some people, did you tell them it was on the agenda for this meeting?
No,
That they should come?
I didn't know it was on the agenda for this meeting.
Okay, I think let's table this
Look,
until next
right.
month. And,
Let's.
but we have to come up with an approach.
Let's vote next month.
That's, you know.
Can I make a
Okay.
suggestion that we do a postcard instead of it'll
Yeah,
just save
let's
the
just-
the money, it'll save more money
And
on
I do think
postage.
next month, you know what, if they don't show up,
Right.
we just move forward. Because to be fair to everybody.
no, absolutely. To be part of the conversation, you need to show up and be heard and
Yeah.
voice your opinion.
That's all.
Is that okay, Dr. Smith? We'll just table this for next month. I mean, you're working under the annual approval.
Right.
So we're good there.
Correct.
I'm sorry you had to sit through.
Oh, that's-
this short
That's
meeting
okay.
before-
I actually enjoy these meetings. I've learned so much about the town during the time I've spent here in the meetings. I mean, we were hoping to walk away today with an approval. If it needs to be tabled for additional public comment, that's okay too. We'll come back again next month.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just think it's good people get to express their whatever
So
it is. and-
how are we gonna give notice? So
Well, I think.
I can do a
that's-
postcard. It just
Renee-
takes an entire day to do a letter for stuffing the envelopes and
Okay.
for one of our staff. So, and it's much easier. It takes a couple of hours to do a postcard.
Yeah.
So,
And they
and
don't have
cheaper
to-
too.
They don't have to
You know
open the
what, if they don't
envelope.
show up next month,
Then we're done.
You know,
that's over.
But I've gotten some other observations regarding this administrative question. We have an agenda, and residents, there are going to be numerous issues that get addressed at these meetings. And if a resident wants to know what's going on, they should be looking at the agenda. And procedurally, it gets posted. I mean, I don't know how
We
exactly.
posted a week before the meeting.
And I think that the residents need to appreciate, if they want to know what's going on, they have to access the agenda and et cetera, et cetera. But we're not going to hand them a letter every time that something's going to come up.
So it's on video.
It's on the
Watch-
website.
Watch the meeting last month, but Dr. Smith's presentation was there. All our comments were there.
Our agendas are on the website.
Yeah, and we're not going to be doing this with every issue that comes
Okay,
up. Just
okay.
keep postponing it and giving notice to people. That's not the way municipalities work. But this is an unusual situation. The school is a dominant building and its activity is pronounced in the town. So if you've heard concerns or people who want to voice their concerns, then we'll take the next step of sending out a direct notice.
If I may, a notice about the school, if we could just educate people on procedurally, if you want to know what's going on, A, B, C, so they don't say, I didn't know. I.e., look at the agenda. If you miss the meeting, you can see the videos, et cetera, et cetera. So people understand how they can stay in touch with the town. So then we've done our job to educate people, in my opinion.
But I agree with the point you raised. Every time there's a contentious issue, you can't be tabling it, postponing it, sending an agreement. So, I mean, I was in favor of voting on this last month. I remain in support of that position today. But I think there are two commissioners who would prefer.
I wish it was in the newsletter. How's that? And then that would be a done deal.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Okay. Let's do it. So I want everybody to be comfortable with this decision. Okay.
So may I ask if when notice is sent, will the only thing that we're notifying people, will it just be Gulfstream Schools proposal will be the only thing on this notice? And do we feel on the postcard?
And we're gonna reference the video from last month so that they can turn to that and watch that, and they can show up next month to speak if they want. I think that's how we do it.
You know, the negative of that is I'm sort of taking from your question, well, why are we highlighting this particular issue? By the way, wake up, you know?
I do feel like it puts a little bit of a magnifying glass on this one particular issue. And, you know, I just want to advocate for equitable treatment. You know, I don't know that every particular issue is going to get that kind of attention or spotlight. And, you know, if we're coming back, you know, it's kind of, you know, we're going to do this three different times, like 3 different trips. Now, with that said, you know, Gulfstream School is committed to being a uniquely small community school and to being the best neighbors we can possibly be to everyone in this neighborhood. If we feel that extra layer of examination is needed, you know, then okay. I just hope that we can work together on exactly what that's going to look like. Because again, I wouldn't want the school and our particular issue to be spotlighted in a sensational way.
We're happy to work with you on the drafting of the note card.
Would
I
it-
just note that the difference is that the school's presence in the town isn't unusual. We don't allow commercial activity. The school is
Understood.
Very big. It's got a profound impact on the core. And there are a lot more students than were permitted.
Understood.
So I think it is different from other applications. So I think let's postpone this a month and get a notice out. We'll work with you to draft it so it's.
I could do a in the know type postcard, say we have a meeting every second Friday. Our meetings are on YouTube, and then at the bottom say notice, this is on the next agenda.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a good idea to let people know they really have to pay. you
Yeah,
know,
if they want to
if they wanna
say
say
in what's going
something.
on, they need to show up at a meeting.
Yeah.
And the meetings are also on YouTube for them to look at after the fact.
Right.
And then also not to email the town manager at 10 o'clock at night. Oh, by the way, I can't be there.
Yeah, so, and maybe that's.
That's okay. I will have been asleep for 2 hours by then.
What we will be addressing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way.
Then that wouldn't draw attention to you
Yeah,
specifically.
you know what?
I would appreciate that. I think that sounds better to me.
That's a good point.
I think that's a great idea in general.
Mayor,
It's not
Mayor,
spotlighting you.
to be fair, Trey fell on the sword on that one. That I want to be honest, there's 3 sets of eyes that look at that letter that go out. So
he does not have to fall on the sword for that.
so I'm involved in that also. So just to
Thank you
clear
for
that.
bringing that. Okay, let's move on to the ARPB.
Yes, Mayor, as you know, the Town Commission authorized an additional alternative to be on the ARPB. And so we do have 2 applications to fill that 3rd position. And we included those resumes in your packets. The resumes are from Terry Power and from Olivia Lyons. I know that Ms. Lyons is here today. I don't see Ms. Power. I just, for the sake of the audience here, just a minute, Ms. Power has been a Gulfstream resident for 16 years. Her children attended the Gulfstream School between 2010 and 23. She's a board member of Gulfstream B&T and tennis committee chairperson, and a volunteer for the Junior Achievement Fellows Program. Ms. Lyons has been a resident for 2 years, but obviously has been visiting back and forth from her New York address to Gulfstream for at least 15 years. She has a child that it does attend the Gulfstream school, or two, actually. They're currently renting on North County, but as you know, they're building a house on North County Road also. She's a 30-year veteran of Wall Street, but has transitioned to a corporate advisory role to spend more time with her family. So those are the two applicants that we've had for that position. And the commission will need to decide.
I assume that.
We have had problems like some attending. That's why we increased the alternates.
Correct.
I think,
It's
is
some,
everyone here all year round, or how does that work?
I think Ms. Lyons is now, and I don't personally know Ms. Power, but I believe she is.
She's here. Well, I know she, yeah.
Right.
She works
Yeah.
here. She's here.
So-
You asked the right question. I think the biggest concern we've had, problem we've had, is postponing meetings because people don't show up.
Yeah.
Well, it's the ARPB meetings that we have.
Well, that's
issues
what I'm
with.
talking about.
Yeah, not the commission.
And so, that's the right
Yeah.
question. And if the person's unable to attend, you miss 1 or 2 meetings, one thing, but to miss all of them in the summer is another.
Yeah.
Right, so that's why we added this third party.
This will go, Scott, how many this will give us 3 alternates?
Three alternates.
And 5, okay.
And 5, so.
So we did change the code a month or two ago to increase the alternate spots from 2 to 3 to address the issue that Mr. Lyons mentioned. And now that we have a vacant third spot, that's what this is seeking to fill.
Well, it's a little awkward for you.
Yeah,
guys.
I mean,
Maybe I should leave.
I reached out to Terry Power. I know Terry Power. Because I wanted the spot to be filled with someone who I knew was very engaged in the community, has lived here a long time, and would be here in the summer. So that's how she came to send her application in.
I think you did that simultaneous to receiving an application from Mrs. Lyons, almost at the same time that you had reached out.
Do we have room for both or just one?
We do have room for only one at this time.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Well,
And it is.
we could take one and, file the other one.
So
another time.
I know that, just from a first and right, I think that Ms. Lyons handed in her application the day before the agenda went out. So we just kind of threw it in there as we now have 2 applications. So to the extent that, we have anything that differentiates the 2, you can go with this, with Terry as the first application we received. If you think that both applications are very good and strong, a long time in the community, around during the summer, and then, to the extent we have any issues with any of our new ARPB members or alternates, that we have someone else on deck that would be able to step in and take over if, we have any attendance issues in the future.
Well, I mean, does that make sense to approve one and then have another one approve it as a backup, or is that?
I don't know. I think we should approve one and keep the other one in the file. I don't think we
That's
should.
normally what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should do that because maybe Olivia or Terry
know-
wants to move away next week. So I don't think that's
I mean,
appropriate.
I know them both well. I know Terry very well. I think they'd both be great. I think they both have a similar outlook on managing these issues on IRPB and understanding the role and the code and everything. I think they'll both get, if they don't already know it, I think they do by kind of by osmosis. One with an active project, and two, the other one just in Terry just being in town and probably listening to me talk every night at dinner. But either one would be good, but I agree, maybe just first in. I mean, they're both equally qualified.
And Mary, I do have to correct myself. I realize you had contacted her much sooner than we received the application, Ms. Lyons.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I understand. So please don't understand.
Well, Terry's been here longer, sort of. I mean,
I
she's
suggest
lived
you vote
here.
on this now.
I would also suggest that we have a higher turnover on the ARPB than we do the town commission.
I'll make a motion then that we appoint Carrie Powers as to an alternate position on the ARPB.
With the commission comment that Olivia is in the queue.
Okay, it's,
A second.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. All right, let's move on to the solid waste consulting services contract.
Thank you, Mayor. I mentioned this last year that we were going to bring in a vendor to help with solicitation of a waste hauler. So we have an agreement with Waste Management that expires on March 31st, 2024, after 30 years with that company and the companies that preceded that company in ownership, right? So 4 years ago, Waste Management wanted to increase our monthly waste hauling more than 25% from one year to the next. I discovered the town of Southwest Ranches in Broward County had similar issues with Waste Management just 2 years prior, and they went out to bid. The bid documents included such language as the contractor shall provide residential collection service with as little noise and disturbance as possible. So with that in mind, with a comparable affluent community with certain expectations of their waste hauler, I reached out to the person that put that bid document together, Mitch Kessler of Kessler Consulting. We utilized his negotiation skills as well as the threat of going out to bid to reduce that request of 25% over the 5-year term to 6% with an annual cap of 4%. That negotiation was extremely successful from a financial perspective, saving residents $60 per year. Now, just to put that in perspective, that's over the last 5 years, every resident in town, not including the condos and what they pay for waste hauling, that's over $100,000 that they saved us. Now, I can't tell you how much it was to work with them on the negotiation, but it was significantly less than that. As you can see from the piggyback agreement, we do have reasonable hourly rates. Mitch Kessler himself is the owner and principal, is at $225 an hour. That is less than, I want to say, a first-year law graduate at Jones Foster, which is $250. The project director goes all the way to 180. So you can see how they decline pretty steadily from there. So I would just recommend that we approve and that's on page, the hourly rates are on page 16 of 19. I would recommend that we approve this piggyback agreement as presented. They will assist us with the unique procurement in Gulfstream. Now, it is not just picking up trash. We have backdoor, side door, we have A1A, certain expectations. We will, through the procurement process, we will require vendors to qualify certain number of years and certain communities that they've serviced. And then we will use Kessler Consulting to also negotiate price. So it's not just a bid, it's qualification period and negotiation. So it's fairly complex. And because of that, and the unique situation we have here with our waste hauling and our residents having a certain expectation, when trash doesn't get picked up, they call town hall calls waste management, they get it fixed, right? So with that expectation of service, and the potential to inflate the price because of that, we think that this would be a huge value add to our waste procurement. So with that, I present that to you for approval.
Yeah, we certainly need the assistance in negotiating this part of the contract. It's a lot of money. It's a complicated area. And we used them before. They were very helpful. Now we actually have to go out to bid. Before it was just renegotiating the agreement. So I agree with you. We need to hire them.
We need a motion.
Motion to approve agreement for solid waste consulting services as presented by the town attorney.
Second.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Okay, let's go to the alternator.
Yes, Mayor. Two bids awards here that we need to do. The first one is to replace the main alternator on the town hall generator. And we collected 3 bids. The lowest bid was from TAW Power Systems, and the staff would recommend that we award the bid to them in the amount of $20,413.
Do they have it?
And no, I believe the procurement document or the bid shows that there is a certain lead time, I don't know, 8
Yeah.
weeks. I mean, it's
We'll
fairly
have it in by
substantial.
June 1, hopefully.
Yes, I believe by the start of the season.
I realize the dates you're talking about. Yes.
Gotcha. For hurricane season.
We got a motion?
We need a motion.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Oh, no, no. I'm just going to move to approve TAW Power Systems for $20,413.24.
second that.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Let's move on to the
Yes, sir.
power lines.
Okay, this is a bid to replace or relocate a water main that actually was going through the lot at 2775 Place au Soleil. So we received 3 bids for that. The lowest was Harvell Utility Construction at a bid amount of $13,250. We received 3 bids for that.
Any comments?
Big difference.
Yeah.
Do you recommend Harville? We've used
Yes,
them
sir.
for, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Move to recommend Harville Utility Construction for $13,250.
Second?
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. All right, the ordinance, we have postponed that item. New police chief.
I'm going to do this a little different. I'm going to go to the back here. Come up here, please. Upon the retirement of Chief Allen, the staff committed itself to finding just the right person to be Gulfstream's next police chief. It contemplated the best route to take to find a replacement for that position. Knowing that when Chief Allen announced his retirement at a town commission meeting and also at a Palm Beach County Police Chiefs Association monthly meeting, we expected the word to spread quickly through the police information pipeline. Indeed, soon after the chief made his announcements, we received in person a resume and application from a PBSO deputy who held the command position for the Sheriff's Wellington Division. We then received a resume and application from one of our own sergeants, and then a lieutenant from Delray Beach Police Department also submitted a resume. So 3 random off the street resumes. All 3 of the applicants had exceptional backgrounds and experience. However, the staff wanted to expand our applicant pool, so we explored other methods of advertising for the position. The staff examined the use of executive search and recruitment services. So-called headhunter firm costs ranged from $25,000 to $35,000. The staff then reached out to the Florida Police Chiefs Education and Research Foundation, an arm of the Florida Police Chiefs Association, to submit their qualifications for the recruitment of the police chief position. They had 2 program levels of recruitment services for the cost of $20,000 and $10,000. The staff requested and received a proposal that included the tasks, timeline, and deliverables for the $10,000 fee. While negotiating the agreement with the Florida Police Chief Education and Research Foundation, we received an inquiry from a neighboring police chief about his interest in applying for the chief position in Gulfstream. I was very familiar with this individual, as was Town Attorney Mazzaro. Of course, Captain Hasley was also very familiar with him, being a neighbor town. The staff spoke with Mayor Morgan about him and suggested we meet with him. The three of us, Mayor Morgan, Mr. Nazzaro, and myself. His name is Richard Jones, the police chief in Ocean Ridge, and that's the individual standing next to me. Good morning. The mayor, Mr. Nazzaro, and I met with Chief Jones for about 2 hours. Had a very good interview / meeting with him. I found the chief to be intelligent, motivated, experienced, and creative with a high level of integrity, diplomacy, and sensitivity. The chief is an outstanding communicator and very approachable. The chief speaks effectively and is comfortable speaking to homeowner associations as well as his town commission. Chief Jones has worked in law enforcement for 25 years, including what was the small city?
City of Clewiston.
Yeah, City of Clewiston, the Glades County Sheriff's Office, and Ocean Ridge. He has been with Ocean Ridge for 8 years, serving as a patrol officer, investigator, lieutenant, assistant chief, and police chief for the last 1.5 years. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read a few lines from his actual resume and application. As the director of operations with the Glades County Sheriff's Office, I served as the 4th person in command of the entire sheriff's office. As director, I was also responsible for the following divisions within the patrol and detention division: security, information technology, religious services, food service, medical services, contract management, maintenance, policy and procedure, fleet services, communications, 911 systems, training division, grant writing, and various other responsibilities. As the chief of police in Ocean Ridge, I've worked with staff to input and create an agency vision, mission, values, and motto, as well as to update the agency policy from the 1990s to current best practices. Additionally, I have updated the agency's technology systems to establish a new CAD system, RMS system, evidence system, policy system, redundant server system, redundant internet system, and a public records system. Furthermore, I was able to implement a paperless environment within the agency to become more efficient, reduce costs, and modernize the operation. During the last 18 months as the chief of police, I have been nominated and appointed by my peers to serve as the chairman for the Law Enforcement Planning Council of Palm Beach County. I was also nominated and appointed to the Palm Beach County Police Chiefs Association as the secretary, and now serve as the vice president. Chief Jones' experience as a police administrator in an affluent Palm Beach County ocean community is impressive. His working knowledge and cooperation with his neighboring communities, Manalapan and Gulfstream, is notable. All 3 communities are similar in many ways, but Chief Jones understands these communities are also different in as many ways. Finally, I believe Chief Jones will be a chief dedicated to casting a vision surrounding the safety and protection of all residents and visitors to the town of Gulfstream. That's why I proudly recommend Richard Jones be appointed by the town commission as the next police chief of the town of Gulfstream. So at this point in time, if you would like for him to say a few words to you, or if you're ready to, or if you have any questions of him, he is ready to.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
One, thank you for submitting your application.
Yes, sir.
As town manager noted, very impressive. My only question is from a resident's perspective, we know we're down the number of police officers, and I think it's an area that you've been very proactive in trying to find officers. So if you could talk a little bit about that, and so we could bring our police officers up to the number we'd like to have.
Absolutely. So hiring currently in law enforcement across the nation has been a confrontational issue for administrators, not just locally within our area, but obviously abroad. And some of those factors are obviously society as a whole's perspective towards law enforcement. And in smaller communities like Gulfstream and Ocean Ridge, we try to focus on more of a community policing model rather than a confrontational model. So obviously we don't have those same kind of issues, but trying to get the pool of law enforcement officers that are applying and or attending law enforcement academies to increase is obviously a bigger issue. So that's one factor that we all face as a challenge. So the one thing that I think we as a small community have to do is, one, build morale within our department where we become the go-to law enforcement agency in the county. We should be the agency that everybody else is looking to, not only to see what we're doing operationally and with our vision, but also what we're doing with technology and how we treat our staff. And I think by doing that, you start to get the attention that you need focused on your staffing levels, and you start to see the increase in longevity of the employees that you're looking to hire. And I would do that obviously through a method that I believe in, being a worker, not just a police chief. So I believe on putting my feet on the ground and doing what I ask the officers to do to demonstrate to them that I'm with them every step of the way. And as an administrator, that takes a huge burden off of their shoulders, and it makes them realize that there's value in their leader and that I'm not asking them to do anything I'm not willing to do. And that's a model that I brought to Ocean Ridge when I started there prior to even being an administrator. And I think that if you talk to any of the folks who have worked for me, they would tell you that. And I think that is the number one thing we want to do right away, is start to establish that morale and increase the morale within any agency that I would serve in. Second is we've got to be proactive about recruiting. We need to be specific about what we want, but we need to obviously expand our searches beyond our local area. And we need to target folks who are veterans from our military services, from other law enforcement agencies, and we need to recruit them to come here. And once we have the model of what we expect to be as an agency, I think that will start to happen without the effort being as forthcoming as we have to be to start the process.
Thank you. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Other questions?
I think that's impressive.
Very impressive.
Really impressive.
As you can tell.
Oh, good question. Better
I
answer.
spoke to the mayor of Ocean Ridge, and while they are sorry to lose him, she could not have been more enthusiastic in her praise of his skill, his vision, his energy, his administrative skills, and his ability to take Gulfstream, as she said, and move our police department legitimately into the 21st century. And I think he is going to bring that to this town. So I'm all in favor of it, making
Thank you, Mayor.
Chief Police Lieutenant Gulfstream.
Do you need a motion?
We do. Don't we?
We do, yes. It is a position only the town commission can hire. I do want to note that I believe Mr. Jones has perhaps some contractual obligations with his contract with Ocean Ridge that will prevent him from starting immediately. So we just need a motion to, appoint him as police chief at the earliest available opportunity, given those constraints. And then I'd also like a motion just for an intermediary, to appoint Captain Hasley as the acting chief until Chief Jones can start.
Mayor, Matt allowed Chief Jones to address that in 90 days.
Yes.
I think he's already begun to work on addressing that. So.
I have. So I obviously have met with the mayor and vice mayor, as well as my town manager, to notify them obviously of my intent to be present this morning for this vote. And I have already started to look for a replacement to fill the position that I am vacating so that I can try to move that process along as quickly as possible for the town of Ocean Ridge. What I would say is that I do have a contractual obligation to give the town 90 days notice, which will be effective, obviously, once you vote, would be effective starting today. And I could potentially start sooner, depending on what type of replacement I have and what kind of transition period we believe is necessary, but it would be no later than 90 days from today.
Very good. Is there a motion?
Move to approve hiring of our new police chief, Mr. Jones.
I'll second that.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
And I'll move to approve John Housley as our acting chief until Mr. Jones can find his way here.
I'll second that.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan,
Yes.
and I believe we need to swear Hasley
Thank you.
in.
I'll just say that Mr. Jones fills all of the boxes we were looking at in a much shorter period of time. If we would have had to advertise and begin searches, I'm sure we would be into this for 3 to 5 months.
Well, we're delighted to have you, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
On your appointment to the chief of police.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it and look forward to working with you all.
Very good.
Mayor, if I may say just one comment.
Yes, sir.
Which is there's not much more you can add to Chief Jones' resume and his workings within the department and the communities. I have witnessed this and worked hand in hand with him from our agency to theirs on several issues and enforcement actions. And the town's residents, the commission should be pleased that you are taking on Chief Jones. He will be a great asset.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for your kind words.
I need to swear him in, Mayor.
Where the chief in, yeah.
Compensation, does that need to be voted on?
You can just have the town manager set that. That's consistent with what we've done before for constitutional officers.
All right, do we need to vote on that? Or
We would not. We can deal that.
Okay, thank you. Before we leave, items of.
Well, we need to swear the chief in.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I, John Hasley,
I, John Hasley,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office under the Constitution of the state,
to hold office under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of the interim chief of police,
perform the duties of the interim police chief
on which I'm about to enter,
about,
on which I'm about to enter, so help me God.
So help me God.
Very good.
Yeah.
And that position is well deserved.
Yeah.
Final thing, shifting topics altogether. I think we had asked Mr. Lyons to look into our banking situation and where our funds are held and interest rates and trying to get a better return. Has that moved forward
Yes.
at all?
I should have mentioned that on my financial report. We have started that. We in fact have interviewed one bank. We're looking at all of our opportunities. I'd like to look at more than just one because any offers that might come out of another bank or certainly our current bank will try to match those. So, but that process has begun.
One of the banks that the town's met with is an existing, we have an account currently.
It's an underground.
And it's a national bank. And I would recommend that sooner rather than later, we start taking some of our sizable funds and moving them from 50 basis points to maybe 300 basis points or 3%, which, you know, in the course of a year could be over $300,000.
Big number.
So I just think we're moving in the right direction, but I think seeing we have a relationship, and you and I haven't talked about this, but we have a relationship, no reason not to invest the money.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
And maybe you keep that, maybe you don't change Flagler. I just want to make certain that exposure in terms of deposits.
Perhaps you could sit down this weekend and go over that and see if you can make some immediate move that you change liquidity.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we're not going to.
If we
At this
wanted to
point-
do banks and we were moving money around somehow, we not usually have to come to the town commission to do that.
I mean, if we're adopting or we're entering into some sort of an agreement or a new investment policy, then that would be something the commission would need to weigh in on, but
We'll just report back to us.
I think that would be sufficient.
Okay.
No budget
We've
change.
had a long meeting, but I
Scott,
did want to touch on it.
Are we ready to close? What about the grass issue? We did get the artificial grass issue, which we all received possible phone calls from. Do we want to put this on a?
So, right, so that was public comment. I mean, consistent with the golf cart dog situation, we'll address it next meeting.
Okay.
Under it will probably be a town manager's comment. We have discussed artificial turf very, very recently, so it can
Ocean
be a
Ridge has
recap.
been wrestling with this for years.
And that,
Ocean Ridge has passed.
But like on a
it's-
4-3 vote, in other words, it was pretty contentious.
Yeah, right.
So we
and it was
We need to
it's a very
address it.
comprehensive ordinance. We talked to Tracy Stevens, the former
Okay.
manager there, and that was part of our report, so it's, maybe we should send out a postcard, Mayor, and make sure everyone knows about it.
I'll do a letter.
We can include it on
Yeah,
the.
so in all seriousness, we will have it on the agenda
Okay,
for next
that's all
month
I
as a
wanted to know.
recap of where we've been.
Okay.
And, that proposal is just rear yards. So it'll just be a recap of where we've gone. And then if you want to direct the commission, if you want to direct the staff to take any action and bring back an ordinance change, we can do that.
okay.
Yeah, as a matter of practice, when something gets brought up like this and you respond, we'll consider looking at it, right?
Right.
And then presumably it gets put on, a follow-up is an agenda item like the dogs.
Sure. So it's not always, anyone can come up and say anything at public comment, but if we have a commissioner outside of the meeting, maybe the following week and say, hey, is that something you're looking into? Staff would absolutely get it on under the manager's comment and say, hey, that was a public comment. There's an interest from the commission and let's have a discussion about it.
Okay,
So it's-
How long ago was it that
It was,
Probably about 4 or 5 months.
I thought we
It
just.
seems like we
considered
just
this
did it.
recently.
I mean,
it's within,
yeah, I don't think you were here.
I must not have been.
It-
It hadn't
it-
been 4 or
we
5
talked
months
about
ago.
it. Well, we
It might have
talked,
been longer than 4 or 5, but it
It's-
seems
it's-
recently.
we talked about it it's been a couple of years since we got it. One of it was as to a code enforcement issue, and the second thing was looking at the ordinance. And I think
Okay.
We actually
tabled it.
passed out the.
We
Town
did.
manager.
Oh, yeah, the
Ocean Ridge.
Yeah.
We did.
the Sample, it's very comprehensive.
We did.
and it's a
Yeah,
lot
so
of
we
work.
can bring it back up.
We get questions about this all the time.
Okay.
Right, we even talked about the duration of the simulated grass and the
Mhm.
warranties and everything else. We
Yeah,
did. we
Let's
did
find
get
out when
into
that was brought up.
Yeah.
It seems to me it was not long ago. And I thought we talked about it over several meetings.
I'm happy to recycle all the
Okay.
comprehensive notes that I presented and we can revisit that along with a summary of where the commission was at that time.
Okay,
that's good.
that's
Good.
perfect.
Good. Anything else? No. If not, thank you very much. Long meeting.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everybody.
I need to sign a few things.
It's been a long time here.
Oh, no. Stiff. I used to.
Hey,
Good.
Steph.
Lord.
Next time I have to bring it down.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I was thinking.
And that's it. Push it a little.
Yeah.
But I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just need. I need to be a little
And I might be wrong.
something.
used to be term limits.
Do we actually?
Yeah, I'll look at it. But I used to be specific. And this is not related at all to it. There are certain numbers star they show up. And I think if they're not showing up and they are kind of there to you. Yeah. You know, and if you, I have one, they could. But I was telling them they are. Right.